just before we even start or whatever, it's like, so how are things? I mean, you're feeling good now and everything all right?
Yeah, I'm in this moment now. I'm in an extremely good place, and in comparison to obviously where I was, and to be in this moment and just to be here and feel and be able to just live is an absolute blessing. And so, health wise, exceptionally, I feel like I'm getting to a place internally stronger than I was before. Mobility wise, still recovering step by step. I guess we'll talk more about it, but just kind of the rehabilitation after what I went through, just some movement in some areas of my body are still quite, there's a lack of deep communication from the neurotransmitters to what I want to move. And so sometimes it's a bit slow, a bit laggy, and a bit weak. But saying that, I'm making tremendous progress and I'm seeing constant progress. And so it's only time before it gets back to a perfect state, if not better. So yeah.
Fucking love it. And you said time, and what's right behind you on the wall? Huge fucking clock that's posted on the wall. I can see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Reminder.
Love it, man. Okay, well, look, basically, so I mean, the thing with this is casual. It's me. It's casual. I'm doing like more online now. It's around my Infinite Breath is the name of my kind of company. I do the Soma, obviously, but I'm expanding more.
Yeah.
I had this idea a while ago, just like ordinary people, and because there's podcasts out there, but I don't think we hear enough stories about what people are doing, who they are. So basically, I'm calling this People's Stories, okay, podcast. Maybe it'll change, but hopefully not. The idea is that the kind of short and sweet, but the last one I did was like 40 minutes. We said like 20 minutes, but we carried on talking because just great things come out. Now, you can ask anything as well, but the idea is I thought of you straight away because I read your, obviously I knew you a little bit, but not much. And I was looking online and I saw your story and it really affected me. And it's amazing. It's amazing. So basically what we'll do now, we'll just start. I mean, whether I go from the beginning because it's so casual, whether I jump into this edit, I don't know. I have a few questions.
Sure.
Maybe we won't even need them, but essentially it's people's stories. And it intrigues me, and yours is a beauty. So we shall just start, and I'll say, hello, this is Greg Banyan from Infinite Breath, and this is People's Stories Podcast. And Leyth, if you could introduce yourself and tell me as well if I've said your name correctly.
It's Leyth.
Leyth, I knew it.
It's honestly like it's a tough one.
Okay.
Tough cookie.
So basically then I'll come in kind of quickly with, we met each other about a year and a half ago, maybe. Yeah, about a year and a half ago.
Back in Barcelona. Wow.
So just go for it, man. You explain who you are, where we met, what's going on.
Awesome. Yeah. So obviously, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me here in this with you and obviously inviting me to be here. Grateful, gratitude for that. So yeah, thank you for foremost. I think it's a great idea to be connecting with people. So yeah, the journey of one's life is, especially mine, has been a very long one, and so has had its ups and downs, its ins and outs. But I'll kind of just talk more about what really happened recently. So obviously we met while I was studying my master's in entrepreneurship and innovation. So I was studying a global master's degree where I spent 4 months in Barcelona, followed by 4 months in Taiwan, and then followed by 4 months in San Francisco, where I graduated last August with an honors degree in entrepreneurship. And so kind of my background was a lot into kind of, MBA style-y, entrepreneurial business acumen, big marketing background. And so that was kind of where my life had really been orientated, quite actually around very stressful environments, which I'll talk briefly about and kind of what that meant for me. But, it was a lot of like boardroom style of like, very strict, stressed, high intense, which obviously for me and the realizations that I've gone through just doesn't have service to me as much as it did before. So at the end of last year, I'd finished my master's degree and it was around October time, and I just landed a gig working with the EU. So I'd previously worked with the European Union on climate change and innovation. So that's kind of my background as well. It was looking at sustainable businesses, startups. How do we get involved with pretty much solving some of the planet's biggest issues? And that led me to land a gig in Budapest, where the EU Climate HQ is. And so I traveled through Europe, and I had to get to Budapest. And for one of the first times ever, I was like, I'm going to get the train, which, you know, normally I get a plane, I fly everywhere, lucky enough to see many beautiful places, always get the plane. But you know what, I was like, I'm going to get a train. That came from somewhere deep inside of me. I didn't know why. We'll talk about why that was very fortunate. I did get a plane. So it kind of was at a point where I got a train, went to Paris, went to Munich, and then arrived at Budapest. On the Sunday that I arrived to Budapest, there was a networking event, and there was a networking mixer for people who are about to start this program. On the Sunday, it was a football match. And I remember arriving to the football match, warming up, and the last things I remember saying were, you know, I need to go to the loo. I turned around to try and find the bathroom, and I collapsed to the floor. And I woke up 7 days later. And apparently what happened was I dropped to the floor and I started having a fit. A medic ran over to me, did a few checks, and was like, he needs to go to the hospital right now. I was rushed into the back of an ambulance, and I was on my way to the National Hospital in Budapest. And obviously the medic team were communicating with the hospital. They were doing checks, and they said, no, we need to go to the neurosurgery hospital in Budapest because his brain is shutting down. His brain is filled with blood.
And how could they tell that though at that point?
So I guess the medic team in the ambulance were doing checks with my eyes and with some of the blood pressures on my neck and on my back. And were using a machine to kind of keep track. And they could see that I was pretty much trying to stay alive. The levels were fluctuating so much. They were like, what is going on here? Why is he collapsed? Obviously, they had no notice. And so they communicated with that hospital, and I was rushed to the neurosurgery hospital in Budapest, and they had the theater ready for me. They cleared it out, and I went straight onto the operating bed. And I had three operations in the space of 48 hours to pretty much keep me alive. And so, yeah, you know, went from like this high flying, just finished the master's degree, you know, landed a sick job, to this point where I was literally fighting for my life in the space, in the click of a finger. I had no prior symptoms. I've got no family history of aneurysms, of hemorrhage, of any such sorts. And I was one of the youngest people that the doctor had ever operated on in his 40 years in surgery.
Talking about, wait then, just to interrupt there, sorry, how old are you?
No, jump in. I'm 23.
23, okay. Sorry, I just wanted to know, okay.
Yeah, 23. And so normally it's like mid 40s, 50s you kind of get. And what I had was an aneurysm. It's about 6 centimeters bulge of blood in my basal artery, which is, you have your femoral artery, which is the largest artery, which goes all the way from your groin up into your brain. And your basal artery lies next to it. They can't work together. And your basal artery is...
Femal is spelled F-E-M-A-L?
I believe so. F-E-M...
Yeah, I'll find out. Femal basal.
Yeah.
Intrigues me because we kind of do some of the playing with that muscle, and then therefore the energy flow from the groin to here. It just intrigues me. Okay, sorry, but I want to know.
Yeah, no. So it's a really good point, and you know, I'm sure you know as well a lot about the body, and it's just so fascinating. I think we don't know enough about it, really, especially as young children. We just don't know enough about it. Anyway, and so I woke up 7 days later, having been told that I'd pretty much been fighting for my life every single day whilst I was in a medically induced coma, which is where pretty much they keep you asleep to keep you alive. Because obviously we being awake, like, you know, there's so much going on in our brain and our body, our minds. And a sleep state is a very healing state. So they tried to my best to keep me in that state. And so, you know, when I woke up, I had very little movement in the whole of my body. And the reason being for this is when you have an aneurysm and it ruptures, your brain fills with blood. And this is then followed by the receptors getting quite confused as to what is going on, which leads to a stroke. And so this stroke happened on the right side of my body, just the way the cookie crumbled. And so when I woke up, I had slight movement on my left just because of tiredness, but I couldn't feel the right side of my body. Jesus. And I started crying. I was in tears, and my mum and my dad were there, and my sisters were there, and they were like, "Leyth, you're gonna be okay." And the doctors had told them, but not me, that I may never get that movement back, because, you know, it's about relearning. And obviously a lot of the statistics are from older people who kind of just give up. They're like, okay, that's just the way it is. But I knew in that moment that there wasn't a reality that I was living in where I didn't get 110% of my movement back, where I wasn't determined every single day using my mind, visualization, understanding and connecting to my body, that I was going to get my full movement back and be stronger than I was before. Wow. And so that's kind of been my conquest for the last 3-4 months or so. Rehabilitation, looking after my mind, feeding my body good stuff, and just really consciously trying to upgrade my DNA to heal, to be stronger, and kind of just lead me to where I am now.
Because okay, so to go back to me just seeing you on Facebook, because what you just said there ties in with things I just like myself. Now I could go, oh yeah, we do this with the breath work, and we do, but that's not why I'm interested. It just always has intrigued me, and especially how people can come out of things. Because I remember, again, we don't necessarily know each other too well. You came to that session, remember, you liked it. It was quite intense. It was a beautiful session, and it happens a lot. And I get, it's cool. And I get a very good connection, sense with people. And then I remember seeing your video where you were basically telling people what happened. I think it was outside the hospital, and you were crying, but you were filled with so much gratitude. And I talk about it a lot, and I do feel it often. But I'm like anyone, I talk about a lot of things, and it's not always meaning that I'm doing it, you know. But I try. But that's why I kind of position myself as, let's say, your average guy that's doing what I do because I really like it, but I also do the bad stuff. But when you were talking about it, it made so much sense to me, and it really made me empathize with you, which is so important between everyone. And I couldn't help but start crying myself because it was so beautiful, man. Because what happened to me, you're just gone straight down to the most basic things in life that you appreciated. And it was so good to hear it. And it was so good to hear it from, let's say, okay, I'm going to say that, but on Facebook, I get to know a lot of people who are doing like spiritual work and different things, and everything can be nice and rosy and a few words. And I do the same stuff myself. I put it out there on Facebook, hopefully with comedy. But your story really hit me, as these stories do. That's why I wanted to do these podcasts, because you genuinely had this fucking awful thing happen, but you seemed to come out of it. The way you were speaking with gratitude, you were still physically quite impaired, if I'm right on the video, but the way you spoke, mate, it really got me, and I never forgot it, because it's inspiring, absolutely inspiring. So if you can take us through, you've already mentioned, you, like you say, the visualizations in the mind, and 110% you're going to see it. And it's something that I pick on because I've been traveling now for about 5 months, and obviously everyone's paused in the world, but I've had that conviction in my mind, it's going to work. I'm going to keep going. If I do a workshop and there's no one there, it doesn't matter. I do the next one. Luckily, it's been quite busy, this, that, but other days are different. When you see something, it really makes you go there quicker if you believe it. So I'm so intrigued with what you did from that point, how you did it mentally, physically, and what other people told you. I mean, did you get lots of positive feedback, or did you get some people saying, look, man, you got to accept this might not work? I mean, give us just a general idea of what happened and how you got to, which is essentially now, am I right, 5 months ahead, more or less?
So 5 months, I guess. November, December, January, February, March. 5 months. And now I guess going into our 6th month. And so, yeah, it's a great question. And it's interesting because I spent a lot of time in a hospital, which, you know, we can have a whole nother discussion about Western medicine and kind of why the hospital systems are set up like they are. Are they truly healing people? Are they truly creating environments for the human to be flourishing and self-healing, which I know undoubtedly that we all have the capability of doing. But actually, you know, the doctors just went by statistics, and they said, you know what? 85% of people die. Those that stay alive tend to have lifelong deficits, whether mentally or physically. Stats, full stop. And that's what they were trying to tell me. And I said, but there's got to be new knowledge, new awareness, new insight, new statistics that can be done. But doctors like to stay in their ways, and that's totally fine. That's their profession, and that's what they do. But that kind of led on me to, when I was lying in this hospital bed, my dad said something to me that will fucking stay with me forever. And, you know, he's a bit of a mystic. He's quite aware. And he just sat next to me and he said, you know what, Leyth? You need to see yourself doing all the things that you love to do. Cycling, swimming, running, climbing, yoga, movement. He says, you need to see that every single day and every single night. And you need to feel that before you will get there. And he was allowing me to actually be somewhere in my mind. You know, I was in a hospital for 1 month with near to no technology, lying on my back, staring at a white wall. All I had time to do was visualize. I think we should prescribe that to some people, by the way. You know, like, go fucking stare at a wall for a month and lie in a bed and you'll fucking know what you're grateful for.
What have you got there? You've got your greatest gift, which when we were kids, we were told, don't daydream. Or Greg, you're daydreaming in class again. Man, I learned most of the things outside of school. I'm not the cleverest, but I've got a brain. And it's daydreaming. Fuck, daydreaming, man. It's so good. But anyway, carry on, please. But totally, I get you.
Yeah, 100%. And so, you know, the wisdom from my dad, and he said, Leyth, I want you to dream your wildest dreams. And that's what he was telling me. He says, Leyth, unless you can feel it and your body will listen to your mind, I want you to dream your wildest dreams. And every night I was there, I was thinking, I was listening, I was swimming, I was running, I was climbing whilst lying in a hospital bed. And week by week, more movement. I went from immobile to lying in a hospital bed, to in a wheelchair, to on crutches, to limp walking in the space of 4 weeks.
Wow.
When I arrived back to London, and I'd arrived at the neurosurgery hospital, St. George's, Queen Square, one of them. I arrived and I told them what happened, and they didn't believe it. They were saying, but your report says that you've had a grade 5 hemorrhage, aneurysm, and a stroke, but you just walked in here. And they were like, there's not much we can do. And I said, yeah, because there wasn't a reality I was living in that I wasn't going to walk in here. I wasn't running again. And that self-belief and self-love, I had my hand on my heart every day. Breathing. You know, my dad said, breathe, just fucking breathe and use that life force, that fucking chi to fucking heal you. Because it's around us in abundance. You know it more than anyone. It's abundant, you know. And now this conquest is this journey that I'm on. And I'm addicted now to human performance. I'm addicted to understanding how can we better ourselves physically, mentally, spiritually, and just become fucking superheroes, because we all have that capability. So yeah.
But just yes to everything. But I want to go again quickly back onto the heart, because I do it a lot. And you know, sometimes you can't remember why, but I know apparently the physical act of putting one hand or two hands there senses the energy and the fact that we're not just the physical body. We are all this energy that's surrounding us, and especially when we breathe, it changes. I was doing it today with the on the heart chakra. You simply do that. Your energy focus is there. It could be a few minutes. You breathe and you think about this baby in this area. It changes your electromagnetic field. Unbelievable. See, that stuff still intrigues me so much. I'm like, how the fuck? But the fact that you're
It's
straight
amazing,
from
man.
doing it all the time is amazing. And I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, amazing.
Amazing story, amazing fucking story. And so basically then you've now jumped to, let's say, 5 months ahead. How would you say you're better on the percentage that you wanted, that you feel, and have you got further to go, or is it just a different way of going further for you?
So, it would have been a wasted experience if a part of me didn't die in a hospital bed. And what I mean by that is, like, some ideologies I kept around what I wanted to achieve in my life, or just the general direction, died in a hospital bed. And I talked about that we look after the planet and sustainability. If we can't look after ourselves, then it's irrelevant. And we can spend, there's so much, excuse my terminology, but greenwashed bureaucratic bullshit
Mm-hmm.
out there when it comes to looking after the planet, when actually Gaia is merely a reflection of our inner. And she is merely a reflection of how humans are treating ourselves and how we are treating each other. And so this realization literally happened whilst I was lying in a hospital bed. I was like, wow, like I need to focus more on self-love, self-work, and self-development. I was before, but it was distractions. I was a bit. But now it's like, okay, where I'm at right now in this moment, physically, I'm getting stronger in my body than I was before. My foot mobility, I'd show you at some point in time, and hopefully by then actually it's healed. But if I was to show you now, you could see that my right toes are still quite slow in activating. So, you stretch, let's say this is my left toes, I stretch them out, then can be my right toes. So they're stiff and they get stuck, and my big toe kind of cramps a bit, which is, whether that's on the spirit body, the physical, or the energy body, or all of them together, it's still a journey that I'm on, which is like, how do I rehabilitate that movement back to full? And my ankle is still quite stiff, which, is a small price to pay right now. And I know it will get better. So I'm focusing a lot on my movement. I was planning to do my yoga teacher training this summer, actually, because I kind of want to go deeper into, yoga was always a respite for me. So it was like, I'm super stressed in this business world. Let me go do some yoga.
Yeah.
And stabilize myself. Then I was like, why don't I just make the thing that I used to escape to the thing that I just fucking do?
Yeah.
And that was the realization that I had. And I'm on that journey of understanding movement, mobility, the fact I had to lie in a hospital bed allowed me to understand my muscles more. I've been working with physios, acupuncturists, Reiki healers, hypnotherapists, just because I was in very, very, very traumatic state emotionally and physically. And so I've spent a lot of time and energy in kind of replenishing and healing. And so, where I'm at right now, actually, my life was about to start, doing my training, go boom, boom, boom. And then obviously we get hit by what is going on, but that's okay. I understand that's full surrender to the flow of life. And so I'm kind of in a place where my mobility is like 98%, I'd say. Mentally, I'd say that I'm actually in a better place. I've got more clarity than I've ever had before in my entire life, because I tried to let go of things that don't cloud me anymore. And I think when you nearly die, you're given the gift of not worrying about bullshit anymore.
And on that point, quick question then. How would you advise people? I mean, even myself, I really get caught up in the mind. I use the breath as a tool and a bit of meditation. But how would you advise people to not get caught up in the mind and really focus, like you just said, clarity? And I use the word a lot, with the clarity on what you want, what it is that's important inside, even if it doesn't work at first or it seems weird. I have many little ideas. I'm like, how can I make that work? But if you feel it inside, something's got to take you there. How would you advise people to do that, or what did you do?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say, first and foremost, your practice, your daily practice is up and foremost the most important thing that I've realized. I'm religious. I'm not religious in the sense of religion, but I'm religious to my practice. I'm religious to my movement. I'm an advocate of Wim Hof right now. It's one of my biggest inspirations. And so I'm doing my Wim Hof breathing every single morning religiously. I'm doing my 3 rounds of breath, and we can talk about that more in later. And so, you know, your practice, because after hospital, I spent 3 months pretty much lying on my sofa because I couldn't move. I had deep headaches and I couldn't sleep at night. I have now a metal coil, 4 centimeters in the back of my head, in my basal artery, keeping me alive for life. And at first, my brain was like, what the fuck is going on? And I was having the most excruciating head pains to a point where I couldn't get out of bed some days, even after the hospital, for a good 2 to 3 months. And so that's why I talked about that energy healing that I had to do to kind of help heal that. But on the point of the days that I didn't feel I was doing much, I'd create so many lists, you know. I would put on those lists simple things like drinking herbal tea, because I know it's good for me, having my vitamins, doing my meditation, you know, simple things. But every day I would tick them off. I'd be like, you know what? I've achieved a lot today.
Yeah.
And that mentally helps so much, because it's like, oh, I'm doing these little things, but actually, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day. It was built by pebble by pebble. If you can focus on those small building blocks and have that routine and have that practice, there's foundations for incredible success. The rest will follow. My mantra is look after the simple and then complex will look after itself.
Nice. Yes. I love it, man. Holy fucking shit. I love it. I love it. Let's go. It's so good because you're so fucking passionate, man. I like it, but you've got the story to back it up. And like my story isn't the same. I don't think there's anyone that is, but especially with your age, man, it's beautiful to hear it and to see it. Mine was with the drinking. It was 7.5 years ago. I stopped, but it was when I made that decision, and I didn't exactly walk out and go, yeah, straight away. But I made the decision to get better. It took me about 6 months or more to get pretty much back to who I wanted to be, which was the young guy I was. And I wasn't like terrible, but I was going to die if I didn't stop drinking, you know. And once I made that decision with help with other people, just talking about things and seeing a better future, then my entire life changed. And then bit by bit, I got into different things, and I keep that old energy. And that's why the breath work intrigued me so much with the meditation. You mix and match. I know it's powerful. Talking of which, the breath work. So what's your daily routine? What do you do? And what happened in the breath work world? Was, by the way, was the Dharma session we did, was that the first time you done breath work, or you tried stuff?
Yeah, that was the first.
Okay.
To be honest, that was literally, you know, you set me on a journey then. And actually, you know, we talk about not knowing each other that well, but it's interesting how you can know someone deeper than they might think. It's because the session I did with you on breath work enlightened me into the world of breathing more than anything. I'm not just saying that because, you know, I'm doing it daily now, you know. Just before I move on to what I'm doing daily, I want to just talk about your journey just on the real quick, because I think it's so powerful, and where you've been, why it's close to my heart is actually 1 year ago, 2018, my stepdad died, and he was a severe alcoholic. And so my parents had divorced, and so he was literally living by himself. And he, you know, he had the choice. You know, my mum said, you choose the bottle or you choose the family. You know, it's sometimes not a nice ultimatum, but he'd gone through rehab to relapse to rehab to relapse for about 5-6 years. And it got to a point where it was really bad. You know, there's some stories about my childhood, but you know, and then the end of it, you know, he was found dead at the bottom of his stairs. And so with cracked ribs, and he must have been absolutely off his face, fell down the stairs, and that was his last journey. But it has a silver lining, because I know in my heart, he's in a better place now. He had so much suffering, pain inside of him, whether that was from his own childhood. So, you know, hats off to you to conquering that mountain, because I know personally and close to my heart, someone who wasn't able to, and now he's no longer with us. So yeah, that was just it on that point, because, you know, your story as well is monumental. And I think when we're in our own stories, we can kind of think, oh, you know, it's good, but there's always better. But actually, maybe it's sometimes nice to actually hear from the outside that actually it's an amazing conquer that you've managed to achieve, because yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny because I did like the other day, I'm here and we've got a bit of a lockdown. It's Thailand, beautiful place. I'm working kind of still very relaxed. There's a few people here, not many. And I was like, right, we're doing something different tonight. We're going to do a meeting style. It's like AA, but it's not. They'll look at me. I said, I know you don't want to, hopefully no one's going to have a story like mine, but this is what I used to do in meetings. So I went in and I shared for 20 minutes my story from the alcohol, from the young kid, maybe some emotional things, alcohol, then pretty much trying to kill myself and then coming out of that and then getting better. And it really opened up the whole room. Luckily, no one did have the same story, which is great, or anything so extreme. People start to share more. And I do this even in my workshops. Now it's like a minute. You share with the other person what's going on in your life, how you feel emotionally. And it opens people up. When someone says something, oh, I can associate to that, then it opens the other person up. And I mention AA quite a lot, but let's say a 12-step program, because you're not supposed to mention AA Anonymous, but I want to, because it fucking works if you want it. And I took me a year or two or more of people saying, be looking at the meeting rooms, to eventually something tricked, and I asked for help. And that for me was a big thing. I really asked for help, and then I took the advice of this person, the sponsor. You have to take advice. It's not them telling you, it's advice. And then if I want to do it, I do it. And I did, because I'd gone past the point. I believed in God, not that I believe in God. We call it gift of desperation. You got nowhere else to turn. Same with you. You're lying there in that bed. You're looking at those walls, man. You got nothing else to do. There's only one way out for you. And it was true with me as well in that point, because it's a horrible, horrible, horrible addiction, man. And I can empathize with anyone. But the funny thing is, I have people, I'm not going to say who, but people I've been close to, and they wouldn't stop. And they wouldn't stop. And you're getting the calls and the calls. And I'm like, in the end, I had to say to other people, you cannot help them anymore unless they go into those rooms or help themselves. Because if you keep like, oh yeah, you got to, oh, yeah, it doesn't, it's this strange balance between where do you help and what can you do? And you do have to give horrible ultimatums to people sometimes. But the alcohol, I am not against it. But when you're caught in it, the addiction, it's fucking unbelievable. It's horrible. But anyway, thanks for saying it. But I do believe the funny thing when doing all these things, it's important to say it as well. It's like Russell Brand has kind of turned it into a brand, if you like, but it's good because he's got a story, and behind that, he's made the difference. He's doing something. He's not everyone's cup of tea, but I like it. It's a bit like Wim Hof. That's how I got into breath work as well, because he's, yeah, I went to a Wim Hof thing about 2 years ago. And that's what I met Raj, who does Soma. And they're very, very similar. But Soma has the meditation side and the music, which I like. But it's all based on a very similar thing. But it got me into it because of the character. And that's where whatever you're doing, and I hope whatever path you take, you'll keep telling your story, because other people will join in, and you've got a character. You're a young lad with energy, with a brain, with intelligence, wanting to do things, and you've turned it around. So that in itself is important. But hopefully with your character, like whatever I'm doing, people are like, oh, it's a bit crazy and mad. I'm like, good, I'm just being me, man. I can be emotional. I can be quiet. I can take things in. I really do. And I go at it with heart, but I also go at it with like, let's jump around. I'm in the mood to just do this, by the way. Let's say stupid. If that's what I feel, then hopefully that brings more people in. That's the kind of principle. But anyway, back to where we were, but I love what you're saying. But anyway, it's important for everyone to tell the story. One of the reasons behind this podcast, man.
100%. I love that. I love that so much. And communication is truly the key. And so every day I do my 30 minutes of yoga practice, and I'm just following different guides, different recipes, just to find the perfect dish for myself, followed by my 3 rounds of 30 deep breaths with the hold breath as well. So, in the space of like 3 months, I've gone from being able to hold my breath for like 30 seconds, to just shy of 3 minutes. And so, I'm expanding my lungs. I used to smoke it was on and off, a lot more when I was about 16, 17, 18, it was a weed smoker. And 19, just cigarettes. And about 20 to 23 was smoking cigarettes on and off, and then was vaping. Obviously, I now have an issue with shouldn't raise my blood pressure. So, I haven't smoked since being on hospital, which is a blessing. And I'm seeing the expansion and the healing in my lungs. And so, I'm not against smoking certain things, so I wouldn't be here right now, I think, if certain medicines didn't open my mind. But in the sense of the lung expansion and the breathing every morning, it's like Wim Hof says, doing the deep breathing, what it feels like to get high off your own supply. And so that for me, the breathing that we did together, and it's mad because actually I can see that the reason I'm interested in some yoga practices some Western yoga is very diluted, but some of the original yogic practices, there's a lot of breathing in there. You know, that's one of the big pillars of yoga. Like, it's, you know, movement is one of 8 pillars, and breathing is another one. So it's kind of, maybe it's about choosing. And so, yeah, for right now, you know, I'm doing my 30 breaths every day, religiously. And it feels fucking good, man. And right now it serves me, and I feel good. It gives me clarity. And, you know, they say 90 days, it becomes a habit. And it's now just, I do it effortlessly. And so I really enjoy it.
No, it's so fucking cool. But see what, as well, with those the breathing that you're doing as well, is when you're holding your breath that long, it usually takes about a minute and a half. You're going to reduce the amount of oxygen in your blood by 85–90%. That's when you go into an intermittent hypoxic state. If it's for a short period, it's good. It's like a natural stress response. But you're really making your body oxygen efficient. You're helping it heal by going into an anti-inflammatory effect and releasing all the feel-good hormones. You're going from parasympathetic, relaxing, letting it go, to then a sympathetic, and then raising your body. Your body's going to heat up slightly as well at the end. But it's so good for you. It's beautiful. You feel great. But for you, especially as well, when you're still healing, it's going to be extremely beneficial for you, man. So that's really, really cool. But I got 1 or 2 little final questions for you, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
I'm just going to fire them at you and just see what comes out. Okay, so basically, what was the happiest moment or period of time in your life? What comes to mind straight away?
In my whole life. So in regards to recently, I'd say one of the greatest moments was, obviously there was attached to that experience I had, 3 weeks I'd spent indoors, because while in a hospital bed, when I first woke up, I was high risk. My immune system was very weak. And it was the same day that I recorded that video, actually. It was 3 weeks, and then they said that you're allowed to go outside. And I literally had a tear in my eye because I'd been looking out the window for those weeks. And I was put on my wheelchair, wheeled outside, and it was just around, you know, the leaves were still orangey. And I remember just really sitting there on that wheelchair, staring at these beautiful colored trees and feeling so happy and feeling like, whoa, why have I never looked at trees like this before? And these colors, the yellows, the green, I was like, this is like a painting in nature. And honestly, that moment will stick with me forever. And, you know, I always refer to that moment when I'm trying to find beauty in the simple things. And actually that moment now, smelling fresh air as well, because I'd been inside a sterile hospital room for like 3 weeks, smelling the fresh air, seeing those leaves, and having like 2 of my best friends who had flown there to be next to me during my side during that period was definitely one of the happiest moments I've had.
Fucking beautiful. And it's so funny because, yeah, I remember that video, man. It just blew me away. Because again, it just comes to something so genuine. Like you say, you go outside and you see it. And I try and do that in my meditations, because whenever we do pause in life or something like that, you just stop. You're like, hang on a minute. And it can happen now with what's going on in the world, that everyone has to stop. I'm kind of busy, but in between all that busyness, I'm like, you just stop and look around and what you've got. I mean, everyone's a bit fucked in a way. Financially, what's going to happen next, but to say it's kind of nice because everyone's a bit fucked. Whether you had $100 or fucking 100,000, it's go, ooh, and you then think about something different. But you have those moments, and I've been having them. You just stop and look around. You're like, bloody hell, the moon's still there, man. The moon's still doing it. Anything to me, the beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Okay, next question is: where do you see yourself in 1 year's time?
In 1 year's time, I'd like to see myself as a fully qualified movement coach. I'd like to have left my, you know, gratitude to have me at home right now and rehabilitate, but have moved to my own place, and kind of have the foundations of my future career, which, you know, entrepreneurship will still be part of that because it's a skill of mine. And so around entrepreneurship and innovation within a university environment, because I love working with students, and movement and internal healing being kind of my own business as well. And my vision is to kind of integrate holistic healing and mindfulness into the education system. That's how I can see myself kind of going future, more long term. Because, you know, we learned this as kids, man, like it's a fucking game changer. But at first in a year from now, just, you know, have planted those seeds and to kind of see those seeds flourishing in my movement and career. And yeah, hopefully post COVID reality, we'll see
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to kind of have a few more things stable. But once again, man, like I have no attachment anymore to this reality. And if I was to die tomorrow, I'd be grateful that I'm here today. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. And so, yeah, we'll see where the next year lies. But, you know, if today's a fucking good day, then that's all that matters.
Fucking love it. Love it. I got one or two things, but to be honest, I want to finish it there because that's amazing. No shit. And I love it because it's not bollocks. You know, we're not just, it's beautiful, mate. It's simple, it's pure, it's beautiful. I knew you had a bloody message. And if anything I've got to say, yeah, to you and to me is keep telling the story, sharing that with other people, and then other people will bring theirs out. And then to me, I was saying it the other day, it's fucking spirituality. You can actualize it, or you can try and grab it, or just say what it is. And I am this, I am that. I'm a mixture of everything, but spirituality to me is about connection. That could be yourself, the leaves, the trees, or the people, whatever. And if anything, this situation that we're happening now can make us realize we are connected. And we're lucky to have this beautiful machine called the internet. It causes lots of alarm, but there's also loads of good ways to use it. So I think we ended there. It's absolutely beautiful, amazing story. We'll have to do another one soon and go on. And maybe as well, but I'll message you, but with the breath work, if you're interested with the Soma, man, I'm sure I can get you a discount or something with the Soma. And
I'd appreciate that a lot. Yeah,
I'll speak to them, a special discount, not just the normal one, because your story is amazing. And you could take this to other people as well with that.
Yeah, I love that. No, thank you. So is Soma like its own class of school of breathing?
Yes.
Send me some stuff. I'd love to learn more. Send me some stuff, please.
Well, I'll send you some information so you can look at it. But it's like a pranayama school. You've got the technique, but it's not just the technique. We're evolving it more and more and more and trying to get more people into breath work. The key for me is having the breath work and the meditation. But they give you a million tools. And I'm one of the people that can help people do that online with the instructor course. And then you take it, you make it your own. But all the things you did is so important for changing our behavior. And I knew about this years ago, but I didn't practice as much as I do now. And you practice it often by just, it happens doing it. I keep saying to people, I don't know how I'm traveling around the world and it just seems to work. I keep meeting people who I just get on with because I've seen it. And I don't sit there every day and go, I have to do this. I just, because I want to do it. It comes from there and then it comes from there, you know? But it just makes sense to me that you'd be good. So I'm going to send you information and see. Let's see if we can work something out. The sound's gone off. 1 second. Your sound's gone off. That's weird. That's it. It's back on now. It's back on.
Is it working?
Yeah. We're good.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that was it really. Just thank you. And yeah, please send me that stuff because it was a door that I felt was about to open through this conversation. So I'm fucking glad that it has. And we'll explore that more. And yeah, man, you know, you're doing amazing work and you know it yourself. And so it's just, yeah, keep it flourishing, keep it going. The world needs it more and more, especially in times like this, where we are forced to look internally, slow down, be more mindful, be more conscious. And the only time is the present moment. So yeah, let's do this, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your story, Leyth. I really appreciate it. And now I know we're going to continue speaking in different ways, different forms. I'm going to get back to you about this course, but we just keep talking because, yeah, take care. It's been a pleasure. Seriously. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, man. Much love to you, Greg, and keep flying, keep flourishing. Speak to you soon.
Take care. Ciao. Bye-bye, mate.